Good afternoon. I'd like to thank you for joining our live Lunch and Learn webinar today. We'll be discussing boosting your productivity with Microsoft Word. And if you're watching on YouTube, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is that you're joining us from. Now, if you've been on one of our sessions before, you'll know the format. I'll make a few brief comments about the context of our session today, and we're going to jump straight into a live demonstration which are really aimed at helping you to get the very best from the software tools that you're paying for and you have installed on your computer at work. Hopefully, you'll learn something today that will make your life just a little bit easier. And when you put all these little things together, it starts to make a big difference. So, who am I? You'll see my name below. I'm Paul Stanier. I am founder and one of the directors here at PS Tech, as well as our different brands that we have. We help businesses of under 300 staff all around the world with their IT, cybersecurity, and their Microsoft 365. So if you're looking for help with any of these things, or looking to get started with 365 or your cybersecurity journey, you can get in touch with us via our website at pstechnology.co.uk, or you can find my name on LinkedIn. Right, let's get started. I'm going to put a couple of slides on screen just to give the context of our session today. So let me just share my screen. We're having some sharing difficulties today, so hopefully this will behave. Okay, this is fine. So we're going to be talking about boosting your productivity with Microsoft Word. So the first question really is, what is Microsoft Word? Well, for us oldies, it's a word processor. Now, you may remember from back in the day, you would have had a word processor perhaps that looked a little bit like this from 1982, if you were around then. This is WordStar. Word Perfect was another alternative. Now, so for those that haven't seen these, you can see they're pretty horrific to look at, aren't they? So we're talking about Microsoft Word today. Well, Microsoft Word was actually released in 1983, so it's got a lot of heritage. And it came out for the Windows version in 1983, and a couple of years later, Microsoft launched the Mac edition as well. So, interestingly, word processors, the purpose of them was to type your letters, type your documents, and print them out. Well, this is how we used to print them out before we had email, newsletters, laser printers, and so on. We used dot matrix and daisy wheels. Now, today in 2025, we're very spoiled. We've got what Microsoft Word is now, and it can do a huge amount more than just sending letters. So, what are we going to cover today? Well, we're talking about productivity, and this is part one. We've got a whole series of these planned over the coming months. What we're going to cover today is three key areas: some beginner topics. So, we're going to look at the Backstage area of Word, so you can understand some of the key functions behind there. Some of the key menus that are in Microsoft Word and where you can find the right tools and buttons, and some basic formatting tools. Then we're going to look at something a bit more advanced. So if you're a bit more comfortable with Word, most people don't use styles and they don't use templates. So we're briefly going to touch on those as well. And we're also going to look at a couple of advanced features, and I'll make them simple for you. How to save time using macros for repetitive tasks, and how to create a form in Word and lock the form down so that people you're sending it to can only edit the fields that you want rather than the whole document. So we're going to create a simple feedback form to help us to do that. So let's not waste any more time. We're going to go straight into our live demonstration. So let me just quit the presentation here, and hopefully you can see my screen here. I'm just checking my Zoom settings. So Microsoft Word. How do you find Microsoft Word on your computer if you're not familiar? Well, you'll see on the taskbar here, I have a button I've created on my taskbar for Microsoft Word. I can click on that, but it won't necessarily be there for you. The other way you can find Microsoft Word is if you click on your Start button. This is Windows 11. If you're on Windows 10, it will be in the bottom left corner. And in the All area of your Start menu, if you scroll all the way down to W or press the W key on your keyboard, there is Microsoft Word. So you click on the shortcut and that will open up Microsoft Word for you. So we said we'd look first of all at the Backstage area of Microsoft Word. This is the Backstage area. If you're in a document already, you can get to this area. If I just go to a blank document here, you can get to that area just by clicking on the File menu here. And you'll notice here, this is where we create a new document from. So under New here, we can create a blank document, which is what most people will start with. But there are a few templates Microsoft provide available, and you'll see here more templates. And when you click on this, it's a searchable online library. So if I was looking to create a newsletter, for example, I can type that in there and it will do a search and it comes up with some template newsletters that I can use for my document, which is very helpful. Let's go back to home. You'll also have your recent document list here, which you can search as well. That is very useful. Even if a document isn't showing on the first screen, use the search. It will help you find things really quickly that are not necessarily visible. All right. Now, a key menu on this particular page here is the Options tab in the bottom left-hand corner here. So I'm just going to point out a couple of things here that you will want to check to make sure that your options are configured properly in your Microsoft Word. So under Options here, first of all, under General, which is where we start, just check that your username and your initials are correct. Okay, this is really important because Word saves the author information within each document. So when the document's being passed around different people, this information is retained and you can see who's made what changes. If you're using the review change function, track change, or commenting, then this is used for that as well. If we go to the Save menu, you might want to check for a start that your save auto recover information has got a time in there. By default, it's 10 minutes. You might want that longer or shorter. And that basically means if there is a catastrophe on your computer and you're editing a document, then every 10 minutes, there is a snapshot of the file, an auto recover point being created. You've probably seen those appear in the past. You can make them more frequent or less frequent by changing that time. Also, you want to check the default file location. So you'll see mine is going into my users John Smith OneDrive folder here into Documents. Now, this is just a little prompt here for OneDrive if you're using OneDrive. If you're not signed into OneDrive, you get it signed in. And once you're signed in, on your task area here, let me just drag that down. And we'll click on the OneDrive icon. You want to make sure as well that your folder backup is turned on. So we can click on the little cog in OneDrive, click Settings, and this opens up our OneDrive settings. And there's a feature here called Backup Important PC Folders. Click on Manage Backup. Now, if your OneDrive backup is not turned on, then this is where you can turn it on. Mine is turned on and it is backed up. If it's not, it will walk you through enabling it. This synchronizes my desktop, pictures, and documents with my OneDrive folder in the cloud. It just means then any computer I log onto or my mobile device or through the web, I can access my documents folder, okay, which is quite useful. So when Word's default file location is that documents folder in OneDrive, it means your documents are being backed up safely to the cloud and you can edit them across multiple devices. Okay, let's just go into the advanced menu here. This is something that's worth checking as well. If I just scroll down a small bit, there's an area here around units of measure. See if I can find it. There are lots of options here. I show measurement in units of centimeters. Obviously, if you're somewhere else in the world, you might want that different. If that is reading something like inches, it probably means your regional settings in Windows are not set correctly, and you may have problems printing. When you send your print to a printer, your printer will say, oh, I don't have A4 paper, and want you to insert some letter or legal paper. You can change that in the control panel through the regional settings under advanced and change that from United States to United Kingdom. And that will solve all of your printing problems and also make sure that this is measuring in centimeters. Okay, enough of the options. We're in a blank document here. Let's look at the menus or some of the key menus that we're interested in. So when we're in a document, we have the Home tab is lit up here. And this is probably the one you're going to spend most of your time using. We've got our clipboard functions here and our font formatting and our paragraph formatting functions here. We're going to look at the font formatting in a moment. You've also got styles. We'll jump on that a bit later as well. So we've also got across the top here the Insert tab. Again, one you will use quite regularly, where you can insert page breaks, where you can insert tables and pictures and shapes, lines, arrows, etc. You can adjust your header and footer from here and insert page numbers as well. And if you want text to float around rather than flow in a paragraph style, you can insert text boxes. Again, we're not going to go any further. We're going to have multiple webinars about Word to drill into some of these other functions that are there. The Layout tab is very useful as well. This is where you can configure your page settings, so your margins, your page size, your page orientation as well. And under View, you can change how the document is displayed on screen with the read, print, or web mode. You can also have pages showing sliding side to side rather than vertical scrolling as well. And we're going to come back to macros shortly as well, a bit later on. And probably more importantly, and no one ever uses this, it's the help menu. So from here, you can click on help, and Microsoft have an excellent library of support articles, how to do things in Microsoft Word. Okay, so I'm going to paste some text now into my document. Let's go back to the Home tab. I'm going to press Control and V on my keyboard. Okay, so I've just pasted some text in here, which I wrote yesterday. Actually, I didn't write this. I asked Copilot to write some text for me, which is Microsoft's AI, and we'll do a session on that another day, so whet your appetite for that. So when we've got some text in a document, let's just focus on these font formatting options that we've got here. Okay, so for a start, using your mouse, you can highlight text on the screen by just dragging with the left button backwards and forwards, up and down, and that selects text. So if you want to edit something you've already got, that's how you can do that. You can also use the keyboard as well. So using the cursor keys on your keyboard, I'm pressing here the down arrow, and you'll see my cursor is jumping down. Hopefully you can see that on the screen share. And if I move my cursor to the right, my cursor moves through. Using the shift key and my cursors, I can select individual characters to the right and back again by using the left key and shift. If I press Control and Shift together and use the right arrow, I can highlight entire words. You can navigate Microsoft Word almost exclusively using your keyboard, and you may find that if you're a bit of a keyboard jockey, you may find that much faster than using the mouse on it, because it takes time to move your hand from the keyboard to the mouse and back again all the time, and that soon starts to add up. So let's change our font size here. So we've got a heading here. I can use here I've got the Aptos font, which is currently selected, and Microsoft Word now displays a preview of what the font looks like. So you can see the name of the font in the font that is actually supposed to be written in. You can also change the size here using these numbers. So this is currently 12 point. If I make it 16, you'll see it becomes bigger. But you can also far more quickly use the font up and font down buttons. So if I click the font down button multiple times, I can make the font smaller. And if I click font up, like so, I can make that bigger as well. Now, there's a clever little function here, which I didn't learn until recently existed, is change case. So you'll notice some of my words here are capitalized, and I might not want that. I do. This is a heading, but let me show you what change case lets you do. You can turn the case to sentence case. You can make it all lowercase, all uppercase. You can capitalize each word, or you can toggle the case from where it is now. That could be a real time saver for you. All right, underneath the font, we've got our bold button, our italics, and our underline. Now, you notice when I hover over these buttons, I get a little tip appears, and you'll see here it says underline, and in brackets, Control plus U. So if I press the Control plus U key on the keyboard, that will underline my text. So if I do that now, there's my text, it's underlined. If I press it again, Control U, that is removed. So it's like a toggle. I can do the same with my mouse. If I click on bold, it makes it bold. If I click it again, it makes it no longer bold. All right. You can also do the same. When you right click on a selected area of text, you'll also get two menus pop up. An area here with some clipboard and some other commands, but just above that, a little floating area here where again we can configure the font, the size, font up, font down, bold, italics, underline. We can also do colors, so we can highlight the text, we can change the text color, and we can do bullets and also choose styles as well. So a lot of functionality around formatting of words and paragraphs on screen. Now, we all make mistakes, so it's probably worth mentioning as well is the undo and the redo function of Word. So up on the top bar here, this area here, which is called the quick access toolbar, you'll notice we have this undo button. And if I just drop the arrow down next to it, these are the tasks, the events that have just been recorded by Word that, as I was demonstrating to you, how to change the font formatting or the font size. So I can go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps if I want to, or I can go forward as well. If I've undone a step, I can also go forward by using the redo button next to it. So I'll just quickly demonstrate that. I'm going to add some words here I don't want. Okay, and now I'm going to hit the undo button, and that's now gone again. If I press redo, that function comes back. And again, to undo something is Control Z, and to redo something is Control and Y. So again, you can do that from your keyboard as well. Okay, let's get rid of that horrible text with Control Z. Right, let's jump into some intermediate types of tasks then to help you learn some stuff about Word. Let's look at styles. Now, we can, as we just demonstrated, take our heading here and we can adjust the size of the font to whatever we want. And I can grab another subheading here and I can make that bigger as well. But that's 16 points. So I now need to remember to make that 16 points as well. And you spend quite a lot of time scrolling up and down your document, adjusting things to how you want them. So styles lets you do this without having to remember what's what. So here is as the styles menu here, and I can click on the little arrow here, and I get some various styles that have been pre-created by Microsoft in the default template here. All text is considered normal style, but there is a style here called title, and there's a style called heading 1, heading 2, and you've also got subtitles as well. Let's just play with heading 1, 2, and title. So I can click, if I've got my title of my document here selected like so, I can just click on title and that will automatically make that text the formatting of whatever is in the title style. How do I know what's in the title style? Well, I can click it like I've just done, and you'll see here we've got the Aptos font selected in 28 point. What you can also do is right click on the style and go modify. And this opens up a window where you can change the name of the style, and you can configure the font name, the size, whether it's bold, italic, or underline. You can change the color of the font as well, whether it's left justified, center, right justified, or full width justification, line spacing, and all sorts of things as well. And under the format menu, you can also configure anything to do with tabs and paragraphs and borders and boxes and frames, all sorts of stuff you can do with a style. So the way styles is intended to be used is you would create for all the users in your business a blank document template or a letterhead template or a report template, which has got these styles pre-configured, your titles, your headings, your subtitles, and even your normal text as well to match your corporate branding. So for example here, let's say I wanted to make my style so that all the headings are in an orange color. So I'm going to modify the title one first of all, and I'm going to change, I'm quite happy with 28 points. I'm just going to change that to an orange like so. It's a very bright orange, and click OK. And you'll see here the preview of that has now appeared in my styles area. Let's do the same with heading 1 and heading 2 and change them to orange as well. But rather than using Aptos, I'm actually going to go a bit funky here and use Alfresco. Let's do the same for heading 1 and do the same for heading 2. And change that to Alfresco as well, if I can find it. And it's complete. I'm having a complete moment here. Let's make this something different in the interest of time. A Haroni. Okay, and change that to orange. Okay, so now my title, heading 1 and heading 2, as you can see here, are modified. So this is set to title at the moment. I'm going to make this one here heading 1, and I'm going to make this one here heading 1 as well. But I could, if I wanted to, have a subheading from within here. Probably the wrong words to use here. I'm going to make this heading 2. And straight away, just by selecting the text there, I've now formatted these particular headings with the styles that I want. Now, the other advantage that this gives you is that when you are looking at the navigation view in Word, it actually then starts to compile a list of all the headings that you've got with your document and create a structure. So you'll see here streamlined and advanced editing, because they were heading 1, have appeared here, but subheading has appeared indented and underneath the advanced editing heading that's here, heading 2. Okay, so this is a way of creating. You can jump to sections of your document by clicking on the different headings that are in here. If you've got a long document, that can also be a huge time saver, and it lets you create as well a contents page, something for a future session. All right. When you're modifying your headings, what you can also do, if I go to modify again, when you save your heading here, you also get prompted to choose down the bottom here only for this document or for all new documents based on this template. And when you click on that, that will commit your style definition as such, the fonts, the paragraphs, the sizes, etc., into your normal blank template, and all future documents will get the title style that we've got here formatted in this way. Another way you can do that, if you start with a Control N, starts a new document. You'll notice it's gone back to the original styles here. We can modify these to how we want. So that, again, let's just modify it to the orange like we had here. Now, if I want everyone to get this blank document template with the orange title style, I can save as here in the menu. And if I just choose from browse at the bottom here, this is my preference. I like to work this way. And then from the save as type, you can choose here a Word template. And that will drop you into your documents custom office templates. We can call this, I don't know, work blank document template. And what I could do is save that document rather than in my personal custom office templates. I could save that on a server or on SharePoint for others to access as well. So that's quite a useful thing to be able to do. We've got a whole, if you go to YouTube, we've got a whole video on using templates in Microsoft Office. So now let's look at macros in Microsoft Word. What are macros? Well, they can be one of two things. First, they can be a complex script that's written using Visual Basic to achieve complex tasks in your document or a number of other documents as well. But they can also be just a really simple set of steps that you follow through repeatedly. And the way you build those macros is by recording them, using those steps, saving them, and then providing a shortcut in Word that you can then repeat those steps very quickly. So let me just bring up some plain text in our document here that I've got in my clipboard. So I'm just going to show you a demonstration of something very simple that I mean. So for example, it may be I want to highlight a certain word or phrase in my document in a way that repeats that. So for example here, the phrase Microsoft Word. If I highlight that, I'm going to make it bold, I'm going to make it italic, and then I want to surround it with a box. So if I go up to my outline up here and choose outside borders. Okay, now if I want to do that again with Microsoft Word here, I've got to do those steps all over again. Bold, italic, and then surround it with a box. That could be quite time consuming if you have to do that a lot of times and you want to do that again in the future as well on future documents. So how can we create a little button or keyboard shortcut to enable us to repeat those tasks with a single click? Well, that's a macro for us. So let me just press Control Z a few times just to undo what we've just done. Okay. How do we find macros? Well, they are found under the View ribbon menu. When you click on View, on the right-hand side here, you've got macros. Now, when you click the button macros, what that does, it does the same thing as clicking the arrow and View macros. And when we click View macros, it will list all the macros you've got in this document and active templates. For instance, your normal template. Now, we don't have any at the moment. We're going to have one when we're finished doing this. You can click Create. If you're into coding, you can click Create, and you have to give it a name first of all. Let's give it a name. Click Create, and we can start typing in to our macro. Well, we don't want to do that. We want to record it and see what that looks like. So let's just close this. If I now go back to my list of macros, we've got our test one, so I'm just going to delete that. That's okay. Close. The other option we have when we click the down arrow is to record our macro, which is what we're going to do now. So just hit record macro, give it a name. Now, a little tip here, it must start with a word. You can't start it with anything else. So I'm going to call it bold, italic, outline. And you'll notice I haven't used spaces. You can't use spaces in a macro name. Now, when you record your macro, you can assign it to a button, which is what we're going to choose, or you can assign it to a keyboard shortcut. And if you like using the keyboard, it's definitely more efficient. What I suggest you do is find a spare keyboard shortcut that you can assign your macro to. It might be worth looking up a list of existing keyboard shortcuts so you can avoid using ones that are already there, otherwise you'll get a clash. So we're just going to assign ours to a button so we can use it and operate it by the mouse. And when we do that, it opens up our quick access toolbar, which is where this button's going to appear, which is this blue bar at the top here where the save, undo and redo buttons are. And you'll notice here we've got normal, new macro, bold, italic, underline. We're literally just going to add that to our quick access toolbar. There it is by clicking add and then click OK. Now the mouse cursor has now changed to a little cassette. If you're retro, you know what that means. It means we're recording. So let's now follow our steps. We're going to highlight the word phrase here in Microsoft Word. It doesn't matter what we select. It could be any text. We're going to select bold, italics, and then if I go back to my home tab, and I'll choose my outside borders, like so. And now I'm going to stop recording. So if I go to view, macros, stop recording. Now you can pause as well, you'll notice. Okay, so we've now stopped recording. I'll demonstrate to you now how quickly this works. So if I just take another word here, the word templates, I'll just double click on that to highlight it. And here's my new button for my new macro, bold, italic, underline. When I click that, straight away those 3 steps are applied: bold, italics, and outline. The fact I've called it that's irrelevant. I could have called it Jack and Jill ran up the hill, and I still would have got the same effect. Let's prove it again. Double click multiple, click my button, like so. Now if I'd assigned a keyboard shortcut, I could have pressed the keyboard shortcut instead, and it would have repeated those tasks for me. Now that macro, if I click on the macros button again, you'll see it is listed here. And this will be saved now so that I can reuse this in the future. All right, so I'm going to jump to our final advanced topic then, and that's about how to create a form and restrict editing in that form so that people you send it to can only edit the part of the form that you want them to do that. So I've created, let me close Word. Don't save. Don't save. Okay, I have got in my documents folder here a file I've created earlier. I'm going to show you what this is what it's going to look like. It's called the customer credit account application. This is a Word document that I've created in advance, and you'll see here it's just very, very simple form, just so we can recreate this quickly. We've got your name, so the person would click here and type in their name, your company name, and basically I want to restrict people to only be able to click in these boxes or tick the boxes that I've made available to them, or to type text in. I don't want them being able to change my documents. How do I go about doing that? So I'm just going to move this to the right hand side of the screen here, and I'm going to open a new document in Word, and I'm going to move that to the left hand side of the screen here. And what we're going to do, I'm just going to copy and paste all my text, which is cheating a little bit, and I'm going to paste text only. All right, this should save some time. So let's recreate this form that we need here. So this for a start is going to be the heading. So I'm going to change my style here so that it's a heading like so. Your name. So this, I want to insert here a field that someone can type into. So after your name, I'm going to go into the developer tab here, and under the controls, there are a whole bunch of controls that Microsoft have provided here. So you can provide a text box here, a rich text control or a plain text control. It doesn't matter which you choose. Rich text allows you to do some formatting. Plain text is exactly what it says on the tin. You can also insert tick boxes here, or checkbox controls, but you've also got the options here for a combo box or for a drop-down list and so on. So we're going to use a couple of these things now. So right here, I'm just going to put in a plain text control, and straight away I'll get this box that appears. Let's do the same here for company name. So I'll just erase that text, put a plain box control in there, phone number, plain text control in there. Let's correct my overtype here, website. Going to insert a plain text field here. Credit amount requested. So here I can actually put in a choice if I want to. So let's put in a drop-down list here. So let's choose drop-down list. And I can now edit this drop-down list. So if I right-click on it, I can go to, no, let me maximize my screen here. What I can do, if I click on it, I can click on the properties button. And when I click on the properties button, I can provide some values. Let's add a value. So £500 credit. Add another value, £1,000 credit. So we've got 2 choices here that's going to be in our drop down, and click OK. So when someone clicks on that now, they can choose what it is, the credit that they are requesting. Okay, I'm going to insert a couple of checkboxes here. So let's just remove these ones here. And are they going to pay by direct debit? Is that their preference? Or they're going to pay by bank transfer? Let's insert a tick box there as well. And finally, I'm going to insert a table here, and actually I'm going to put it just below here. So let's go insert table. I'm going to put in 2 columns, 2 rows, reference number 1. I'm using Control X to cut and Control V to paste. And I'm just going to get rid of some text here. Okay. And in here, I'm going to, make this a bit wider. I go back to my developer tab. I'm going to insert a couple of boxes here where the person can type in the supplier references. Okay. And there's a note here, password 1234. What does that mean? I will show you. Let me delete that. And a little bit of text here for our recipient to save it. Okay, how do I now protect the document? That's the important part. Well, from the developer menu, there is the option here to restrict editing. And this is why you need the developer tab showing, 1, to insert the controls, and 2, to restrict editing. When I click on restrict editing, I've got some choices here. Now, the font's really small, so apologies if you can't see this. I can either restrict formatting, so I can limit formatting to a selection of styles, or I can do editing restrictions. Only allow only this type of editing in the document. So if I click on that one, that's what I want. I only basically want people to fill in forms. So when I choose fill in forms here, the only text that can be changed is the text in the form fields we just added. Step 3, start enforcement. So let's click start enforcement, and we're asked to enter an optional password. Now you can leave that blank, but that's a bit pointless because someone could unrestrict the document and change it. So let's put our password as 1234. I'm not recommending that as a future password. Click OK. Great. I'm going to save the document. So let's go save as. We're just going to call this test form and press enter. Okay, that's great. So now if I'd emailed this document or sent a link to this document to somebody so they could do a credit application with my business, I can't click on the word name. I'm trying to click here. I just can't do it. All I can do is click here and type in my details. Okay, company name, Extreme Training, my phone number. Oops, try that again. My number lock was off. My website. Like so. Okay, my amount of credit requested, I can choose 500 or 1,000. 500 will be fine, thank you. How do I want to pay this company? Well, I'd prefer to work on direct debit, and I can now supply my supplier references. And I can keep typing the address, the email address, etc., into this box, and this will basically keep growing as it's inside a table here. As a recipient of this form, I can save this and send it back to the credit team. Now, when you receive a document back, or let's say you save this and want to make future changes to it, you need to, from your original form, you basically need to turn off the restrictions. So when we click on restrict editing again in the developer tab, it says here that the document is protected. The button at the bottom, it says stop protection. When I click on that, what's the password? 1234. Great. I can now start editing the form as I did earlier on. So let me just stop my screen share. We're going to stop there because we've reached the half-hour point. So hopefully you found that really informative. Have a play around with Microsoft Word. There's so much more it can do than just type letters and type documents. You can really use it to help boost productivity in some areas and efficiencies as well. It's a very powerful tool. And when we show you the AI functionality at another time, it really is extremely powerful indeed. Thank you so much for joining us live. We do really appreciate the time you put aside for these things, and hopefully you get some value out of them as well.